A small message from me before we kick off with today's video. iDRIVEACLASSIC is proud to be sponsored and insured by Adrian Flux. If you haven't heard of Adrian Flux before, they're the UK's leading specialist motor insurance broker, covering everything from classic and vintage cars right through to heavily modified sports cars. So whether you're in a Morris Marina, a 90s retro runabout, or something with a bit more oomph under the bonnet, give them a call for your next policy. I've popped a link to their site in the description box below. Hi guys, it's Steph from iDRIVEACLASSIC and today I'm back with a blue Triumph, but this time it's not my own. So I'm back with TJ from Darling Classics. He got this in last week and he said before I do anything really to it, come and have a look because I'm sure it's going to fly out as soon as it's done. So we're coming to see it. It's very much a work in progress, but yes, it is a Triumph GT6 Mk3 from 1972. So I'm going to show you around this car today, show you the bits I do like about it, show you the bits I don't, and best of all, we're going to get to take it out on a test drive. So it's only just landed with TJ. There's a few bits that definitely need to be sorted out here and there, but overall, it's quite a nice car. And I thought, whilst we're in the area, why not have a look? So we'll kick off with a look around the outside. The Triumph GT6 was dubbed the poor man's E-Type. But in today's video, despite it not quite taking my fancy, it's a great little sports car which could do with a lot more airtime. Now whilst the E-Type is out the reach of many of us, these GT6s are still available for well under £20,000, which means you should definitely be looking at these if you're looking to get something like an MGB or a 60s or a 70s sports car as a little bit of an alternative. The GT6 was made from 1966 through to 1973, and just like a lot of the memorable Triumphs, it was styled by Michelotti. Early prototypes are based on the Spitfire, and Triumph toyed with different ideas, including fitting the Vitesse 1600 engine, but the company put the investment into the car and it ended up with the 2-litre 6-cylinder engine that you'll see under the bonnet today. The GT6 on a good day should be producing round about 95 brake horsepower and a top speed of 112 miles an hour. By the Mk3, the car should be doing 0 to 60 in just a whisker over 10 seconds. The car was marketed to come up against the MGB, and I guess it kind of still fits that market today. And whilst MG loved playing up to mother's disapproval, Triumph boldly went to market with the strapline, the new one, the hot one. It's not just a fastback, it's the fastback. But here's the thing, unlike the MGB that was really loved and everybody had so many great things to say about it, the GT6 just didn't quite cut it with reviewers and early buyers. Because whilst you can see this styling even by the Mk3, where it's slightly changed, is absolutely spot on, and the 2-litre was perfect, the rear suspension was borrowed from the Triumph Herald. Now whilst that swing axle wasn't a problem on the more sedate Herald, because if you think about it, you're not really going to be going above 60, 65, the GT6 driver wasn't out for a leisurely cruise, and it quickly became apparent that the hard cornering resulted in the car breaking away. Now, it's really not acceptable because it's a sports car, it needs to perform, and so really like a lot of other cars where you hear early examples having problems, like the Marina and its handling for example, this reputation for the suspension really stuck with the GT6. And in fact, it was the first thing that many people mentioned to me when I said I was testing this car. However, Triumph didn't just sit with it, they did try and rectify the problem. So by the Mk2, which arrived in 1969, they started using double wishbones. They also tweaked the power as well with a new cam and a new head. But really for a lot of people, that reputation had been set. Now, eagle-eyed people will also notice, of course, that those bumpers change from the Mark 1 to the Mark 2s and 3s, and this was done for the American market because, as we talked about in the MGB video, America has different safety criteria, or did, to us, so we had to change our models to make them sell abroad. So you do see this with various other cars, as I said, the MGB, going over to the rubber bumpers, and you also see it with Morris Minors. That's where they changed from the lowlights to the highlights. Now, though the Mark II took 3 years to come to market, the Mark III was very quick in succession, and it arrived in 1970, and that's what we're testing today. So you'll notice, if you've seen an early one before, on this you'll see the new rear end styling, which is a lot like the Mark IV Spitfire, and there were more revisions again to that rear suspension, and by 1973, the last year of production, a brake servo was also added. Seems a bit of an afterthought, that should have come a lot earlier. Now, unlike the MGB, the GT6 isn't one of those classics that you see constantly, and it kind of just faded away in 1973 without too much fuss. Because it wasn't like the sports car market wasn't there, because of course the MGB ran until 1980. So because it's not one of those cars that you see every day, I thought I do need to get out and test this and see what it's like. Now, as you'll see on the test today, I've been very opinionated. There are some bits that I think fall massively short, and there are other bits that I think outperform the MGB. But before we go for a drive, I'm going to introduce you once again to my good friend TJ from Dolan Classics. This car is it is coming up for sale, so I've put a link to TJ's Instagram in the description comments below. You will be able to contact TJ directly if you'd like to see this car in more detail before it goes to market.
Hi there, it's TJ from Dolan Classics here in Macclesfield. I'm here today introducing my third Triumph GT6. It's the third one I've ever owned. I've only ever owned Mark IIIs. I love the style of them, often referred to as the poor man's E-Type, so it's a influence car of that in the Michelotti design. Big enthusiast of them, love the way they drive, love the way they look. A lot more exciting version of an MGB for me, so we're here with Steph today to test drive it.
Now, I've been in quite a few Michelotti design cars, and they usually feel a little bit more stylish and a little bit more swish inside than this one does, and there's a few bits that really throw it for me. So I thought as we look through the dash I could kind of point that out for you, and so you can see where my mind is going. So we don't have a glove box, and I'm absolutely fine with that. We've got this space over here, just this pocket. That's fine. Would have been nice to have a glove box, but it is what it is. Now this is where it starts to get a little bit I expected something more, because when you look at this car from the outside, it's everything, isn't it? It's so incredible. And then you've got this here, this heater vent, which realistically, would you not have been better putting it here? It feels, when you're looking at it dead on, it doesn't feel quite right. Now coming into the middle, again, let's talk about some of the design. So if you see here, this heater, to get this on, and this, you'll probably notice it should have a little black thing like this on here. To get these heaters on, you have to pull them towards you and then drag it across. It's no wonder that this thing has broken off. It is with the car, but again, TJ's had the car a week. It's something he needs to be getting on with. But for me, that's quite a flawed design. I do not like that. This here, this is just for your dash lights, I believe. It's either dash lights or the light just up here, but not too sure because it's not really functioning for either at the moment. Temperature gauge, fuel gauge, and then here you've got your light switch. So it operates on there, and then you've got a little bit like my 1300, you've got this control here as well, but again you can slide your fingers in, pull that forward. The choke, it's got a hole next to it there, so I'm just pointing out for you, and then in the middle we've got two dials, because really simplicity is key. It does always lead to a nice sleek smooth design. So on the left you've got your speedo with a trip clock, just a little bit like my 1300, you just reset it down there. In the middle we've got this hazard warning switch. Not sure if that is, as it should have been, something that someone's paid extra for, but again I maybe would have put it in the center over here. And then to the right hand side you've got your rev counter there with just a few warning lights. And just down on my right here I've got my wiper controls, so it's pull for wash and then just twist that to get that coming on. Down on my far right here I've got a Kenlo fan, and really that's kind of everything, because of course I guess here where we've got this blanking plate in the middle we might have had a stereo, but we don't, and that's it in a nutshell. I don't know, maybe I'm being overly critical, but I really did expect it to feel a lot more stylish and a lot more advanced inside than it does. Another thing that's a bit of a bugbear for me in this car is, and this could be mirror placement after purchase, but if you look, when I'm opening this quarter light, it's catching the mirror. And because it's so hot in here, because we don't have a Webasto roof, you do need those quarter lights open all the time. So outside, I'm absolutely sold. Under the bonnet, that straight six, love it, especially because it's a later one, so we're getting a much better 0 to 60. I think it's about 10 seconds. It's just this interior styling that just slightly lets it down for me. But will I be sold on the drive? So we're going to get it started up so you can hear what it sounds like. Take her out for a drive, and we'll see if this dash that doesn't quite sell it for me is overwritten by the driving experience. So it is that straight six under the bonnet. We've got twin carb, and it just sounds, well, rather delicious. But what does it sound like from the back? Let's go and have a listen. Right, let's go through this box. Now it's one of those cars that it's very easy and very quick to get up into top gear. So of course we've got the 4 gears on this. We haven't got that overdrive. Now as we go through this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what that means in terms of what does it feel like we're lacking. But let's just talk about that gearbox first of all. So it's a very strange format when you're changing the gears. So first down to second is very straight, so it's just literally first and second. But going across into third, you don't feel like it's got that normal H pattern like this. It feels like this. So you're going first into second, and then across into third, and then down into fourth. Very bizarre, and not something that I've come across really before massively. But once you get your head into it, it doesn't feel too strange. I think because it's a nice box in this one. I think if it was a very well used example and the box was a bit all over the place, I don't think it would be as easy to get your head into. So first of all, let's talk about what I like about driving this car. Because of course I wasn't immediately sold on that with the dash like this. I felt it was a bit clunky, and I thought maybe it was going to take a lot to get me into it. So what I like about it is that as you're driving, getting into it was, honestly, it was like being born. It was you had to pour yourself into it. But once you're in and you're sitting, the seating position is lovely, and you feel very, very secure. Now I've got my leg wedged right across this door here, but the other leg here, I don't feel like I'm massively hemmed in here. I have got a lot of space feeding over into this area. Got this armrest here, which is nice because of where the seat is. It's all, I don't know, it all comes together very, very nicely. The handling, as you come around these corners, you'll see it's very nice. The steering isn't as heavy as that MGB, because a lot of people say, oh, you know, I'd much rather go for an MGB, but actually I find that handling and the steering and positioning on this one is far more preferable. It means that the driving, as you come into it as a new driver, having never driven one of these before, feels a lot more natural. Now let's have a chat about what I don't like about the car, because there's a few bits about the car that I don't really like. Now one of them is something that you wouldn't know about unless I told you. So where my foot is on the accelerator down here, it's so far over towards this door that my foot is not only on the accelerator, but the side of my foot is touching the door. And I don't know, for me that just feels, it feels quite cramped. It gives the illusion of feeling quite cramped, but then over here there's enough room for me to rest my left foot next to the clutch with a bit of room remaining. I mean, I can only imagine what it would be like to drive in maybe some bigger boots, like some work boots. I think it would be nigh on impossible the way that it would catch that door here. Now the other thing that I don't really like, and that I said I would talk to you about, is that overdrive. Now of course we were up into that fourth gear quite quickly, but as I'm driving along and I'm hitting 50, 60, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking it just sounds like I need to be going into an overdrive or a fifth gear. Really, Triumph made a massive oversight here. What they should have said was we're building this incredible car to be driven at incredible speeds. Overdrive or an additional gear is something that we're just going to have to put in as standard. It really shouldn't be an optional extra. They've really messed up here. Now another thing that I should mention is that we're driving today, and bear in mind that these were sold, now Triumph did very well selling across to America. Now to say that these were sold in America and that today is a pretty average day, I think we're only at about 15 degrees, it is hot in here, really, really hot. I can only imagine what this would be like if this was your Sunday car and you were driving it. Without that Webasto roof, it's boiling. And I know those back windows do pop open. I know we've got these quarter lights. I know we've got these spacious windows, but honestly, it's just not enough. Now I'm coming to the end of the video. It's been a good little day out. I've enjoyed it. It's been a nice car, but would I take it home? Not really. So I hope if you're a GT6 fan, I haven't upset you too much. It has been a laugh, but it's time to head home. So until next time, take care and drive safely.